Alright, so this is part 3 of the video series I'm creating about my life growing up as a Mormon. In this video, I'm going to talk about one of the most mind-blowing moments that I had that really jolted me awake from my current reality, and that was finding out about the original temple ceremonies. So, as I talked about in the last video, temples are extremely important in the Mormon religion. And we spend our entire life preparing for the moment that we get to go through the temple and receive the Endowment ordinance for the first time. And the first thing that you should know about these ordinances is that they're considered to be sacred, and we don't tell anyone what happens inside that temple. So because the ceremonies are not talked about, you don't know what to expect your first time going through the temple. So when I went through for the first time, I was completely surprised, to put it lightly. I had not been prepared for the fact that we would be like changing clothing and doing this very ritualistic stuff that I had no idea that our church even did. I was kind of just sitting there in shock. One of the first things they say when you get in there is that you're about to make very serious promises, which you don't know what they are yet, and if you're not serious about this, you need to stand up in front of everyone and walk out. So obviously, with all of the social pressure of everyone in the room and knowing that you've wanted to do this your entire life and all of the hype that has gone into this, nobody in that moment is going to stand up and walk out of the room in front of everyone. Like, this is something that I've wanted my entire life. My friends and family and loved ones are here with me, and of course I'm ready. Of course I'm ready for this moment. But the more I sat there and just watched this stuff going on that I was not prepared for, I actually had this moment the first time through the temple where I was like, this is what I've spent my whole life in? Is this a cult? Like, I really had that thought. But being surrounded by my sister on one side, my mom on the other, all of my family's there to see me have this moment going through for the first time. And it was so surreal. It was like waking up from a dream. And anyone who was in that ceremony will tell you that my face was just in complete shock and bewilderment. I just couldn't believe that this was the thing that I had waited for my whole life. It did not feel spiritual. It did not feel like peaceful. Mostly it was just super confusing. So years later, I find out that a lot of people going through the temple for the first time actually feel this shock and confusion. But my mom had made me feel like I had done something wrong. I must have been not worthy to be in the temple. I must have been in a bad place spiritually, and that's why I didn't have this super spiritual experience going through for the first time. And one of the things that really confused me about the ceremony was that they did all of these hand gestures. But I knew that the temple was supposed to be deeply symbolic. And they tell you that you just need to keep on going back over and over again so that you can continue learning from the symbolism about what it all means. And I wanted to be a good Mormon, and I really earnestly wanted to go and to learn and gain more knowledge and understand what all of this symbolism meant. So every time I went, I came up with new ideas and meanings that made sense to me. But for the life of me, I could not figure out what these strange hand gestures meant that we would do. So this was the huge turning point for me. One night, my husband and I were watching a documentary on the Freemasons, and I knew that Joseph Smith had been a Freemason, and I started to notice in the documentary that they were doing a bunch of hand symbols. And I also noticed that they were wearing similar clothing to some of the things that we wear in the temple. And as I started noticing these things, it really became uncanny how similar they were to the Mormon temple ceremony. So when the documentary was over, my husband and I were both like, you know what? Let's find out. Joseph Smith was a Freemason. Let's find out when he became a Freemason and when he introduced the first endowment ceremony in the temple. Well, it turns out Joseph Smith became a Freemason just 6 weeks before introducing the first endowment session in the Mormon temple. But when we looked up the wording that the Freemasons use, it is absolutely word for word in so many places to the Mormon temple ceremony that it was obvious that Joseph took what he got from the Freemason ceremony and implemented it in his own temple. But the most shocking part for me was finding out the meaning of the hand symbols that I had wondered about for the last 10 years. Not only because the Freemasons use the same hand symbols, but because the Mormon temple ceremony before 1990 actually explained what the hand symbols meant. And they took out that wording in 1990 because it was scaring the members. They found out by sending out a survey about the temple, and the members said that that part of the ceremony was scaring them. So they decided to take it out. So if you don't want to believe what I'm about to tell you, you can ask anyone you know that went through the temple before 1990, and they will attest to you that this is true. So, with that said, come to find out, the 3 hand gestures that I had wondered about for so long represent your covenant to slit your throat, tear out your heart, and slice open your bowels rather than reveal the secrets of the ceremony. And after 1990, they took out the wording about the penalties and changed the hand gestures to something less obvious, but the representation of promising to end your life rather than reveal the secrets is still the same. So when I found this out, I felt just completely sick. I mean, there is no way to express how much shock and disappointment I felt finding out the meaning of these hand gestures. And finding out that it was just an oath of secrecy, it was just so disappointing. But when you put this in context, everything starts to make sense. They initiated these ceremonies in order to keep their plural marriages a secret, and that was the whole purpose in the beginning of them having these ceremonies inside the temple, where they could secretly take on extra wives and they could make these women give a covenant of secrecy so that no one would find out about it. But the other crazy part about finding all of this out was seeing how many changes they've made to the ceremony over the years. And these ceremonies are supposed to be so precise and so exact that if you even get one word wrong, they make you redo that part. So if God wanted this ceremony to be exact, then why have they changed it so many times? One of the changes that shocked me the most was finding out that after the death of the prophet Joseph Smith, Brigham Young actually initiated a covenant that the members promised to avenge the death of Joseph Smith from generation to generation. And they covenanted to do this inside the temple. And this was one of the covenants as part of the ceremony until around 1930 when they finally removed it. And the thing is, the church has the documentation on all of these facts, but they are purposely keeping this from the members. It's not in the curriculum in Sunday school. And the more you find out about church history, the crazier this information gets. In the next video, I'm going to talk about one of the other biggest eye-opening moments that I had in this process of discovery, and that was finding out about the translation of the Book of Abraham. And as I said in the last video, all of this information is well documented. I will put another list of resources in the description below, but I really encourage you to go out and to research everything you can find about the actual historic events of Mormon history. And if you've already looked into the Freemasons and you already knew about these temple ceremony changes, leave a comment. Tell me how you felt when you found this out for the first time. If you've been through the Mormon temple ceremony, leave a comment and share your story. How did you feel going through for the first time? I'm looking forward to hearing your stories and your thoughts, and hope you join me in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.